Hi everyone, my name is Shrikant. Today we are going to learn about batch Apex in Salesforce. This is third video in Apex Asynchrnous series, and this is a very important topic as batch Apex will be used almost every project in Salesforce. By end of this video, you will be able to understand what is batch Apex and why we should learn batch Apex when we already got future method and queueable, and we'll also see some couple of scenarios when batch Apex has to be used instead of future and queueable, and finally we'll see some limitations with batch Apex. Okay, first things first. Batch Apex is basically an asynchronous process like queueable and future method. What is asynchronous process? I have already made a video on future method where I have clearly explained the difference between synchronous and asynchronous process. So I have added the link description down below, or you can also click on information icon on the right top. But for now I will explain with a small example. Okay, so today morning when I woke up I have 4 tasks to do. One is taking shower and then getting ready, and then having my breakfast, and I realize my car engine is not starting, so give my car servicing, and finally I want to go to a movie with my girlfriend. So asynchronous is something which runs in background without you having to wait for the task to finish. So if you see all these 4 tasks, we need to realize which one doesn't need my physical presence. So taking a shower and then getting ready, of course I need to get ready. Eating my breakfast, obviously I need to eat. And then movie with my girlfriend, of course I have to go to a movie with my girlfriend, not someone else. And finally, giving my car for service. Giving my car for servicing doesn't need my physical presence there. I don't need to wait till the servicing is completed. So if you see how synchronous does and asynchronous does, then you will clearly understand the importance of asynchronous process. So if we time frame these things, taking a shower 20 minutes, breakfast 10 minutes, car servicing 120 minutes, and movie with my girlfriend 2 hours. So if I wait for car servicing for 2 hours to complete and then I go to movie with my girlfriend, obviously it will take 270 minutes like here, which is 4.5 hours. So instead, after completing my breakfast in the asynchronous process, I can give my car for servicing and I can take a cab and then come back to my girlfriend and then go to a movie. And once my movie is done, and then I will go back to car servicing to pick it up. So if you see, it just took 150 minutes while I'm watching my movie with my girlfriend. Then car servicing is being done parallelly. So this is what asynchronous mean. Anything that doesn't need your physical presence or doesn't need user interaction. In our computer terminology, we call it as user interaction. So if we don't need any user interaction to a specific job, just move it to a synchronous job, then automatically it will be run parallelly. And your task will be done in different end and back, and it will be done with another task. As simple as that. It will save your time and it will not bore you. Simple. Hey, hello Qboy, what is it now? I got a problem. I wanted to update 1 lakh accounts. Salesforce saying go away as governor limit is just 10,000 updates. Yes, as per Salesforce governor limit, we cannot update more than 10,000 records in one transaction. So Qboy has a problem where he needs to update 1 lakh accounts at once. So to fix this, we have a solution, which is presenting you the savior of any developer, in fact for any project, the batch Apex. I am not exaggerating it, but batch Apex is in fact a savior for any person. In any project, usage of batch Apex is quite common. Whenever there is a need of processing millions of records, then the only answer is batch Apex. Except batch Apex, there is no other way you can process million records at once. You want to do any complex logic, send millions of records, go to batch Apex. You want to delete millions of records at once, go to batch Apex. So this is how batch Apex has been become a very important role in any project. So batch Apex process up to 50 million records in background, unlike future method and queueable. Future and queueable still agrees with whatever governor limits that we have it for asynchronous. But batch Apex will process 50 million records at once. So as per Qboy's requirement, we have 1 lakh account records to update. But governor limits is of course 10,000 record at once. That is the reason Salesforce said go away. I cannot insert 1 lakh record at once. Batch Apex can deal with this situation. How? So batch Apex process total records in batches. So let's say in one batch, if we want to process 2000 records, so for processing all the 1 lakh records that Qboy has asked, for 2000 records for each batch, it will take 50 batches to complete. Still, I am not clear what is this batch size. Okay, I will explain with an example. Let's say 8 bags has to be moved from one room to another room. You see 8 suitcases. Unfortunately, God has given me only 2 hands so that I can carry only 2 bags at once, which means the batch size is 2 bags. So one batch, two bags, which means one time I can carry two bags. So if I carry two bags to the other room and then I come back and then I will take another two and I will come back again and I will take another two and finally the last two. So if I can hold only two bags, so the bag size is two, which means I need to run four times running for the same job so that eight bags will be moved to the second room. So in summary, if our batch size is equal to 2, which means if I can hold 2 bags, for 10 bags I will take 5 trips, 100 bags it will take 50 batches, 1000 bags it will take 500 batches, 1 lakh record, 10,000 records it will take 5,000 batches, and finally for 1 lakh bags it will take 50,000 batches. If we just convert this analogy to our Salesforce Queueable analogy, if batch size is equal to 2000, which means if I can hold 2000 records at once, to process 10,000 records, it will take 5 batches. To process 1 lakh records that Queueable has asked, it will take 50 batches. This is how batch Apex works. I hope this bags analogy help you to understand batch Apex with batch sizes. Oh, thanks. I got it. How to create batch Apex. Is it easy? Yes, of course it is easy. So for any synchronous method, if you want to define it, so let's say if it is future, you need to give at the rate future annotation for future. If it is queueable, you need to give that class as implements queueable interface. In case this Apex batch Apex, we need to implement database.batchable interface. It's as simple as that. So to define any batch Apex, whenever you implement database.batchable, then Salesforce will immediately understand, okay, this is a batch class which is processing millions of records at once. This is how Salesforce understands. So as I have explained in my previous video in Queueable, so interface is something which is a to-do list. If you are implementing an interface, you also need to get the methods that are inside that to-do list. So database batchable is having three methods which we need to add it in our class. So the first method is start method. So what do we need to write in start method? So in that batch class, which is implementing database.batchable, start method will have querying of all the records to process. Let's say you want to query all accounts to delete. So in here in start method, you will just write select ID from account. Done. You don't need to give anything else. Just you need to get all the records. Let's say even though it receives millions of records, it will stay there. And the second method is execute. It will have the batch of records that needs to process from start. Let's say out of 1 lakh records in our previous example, Queueable has given 1 lakh records. Out of it, execute method will take only 2000 records and then it will again go to start to get the another 2000 and another 2000. So execute will run 50 times. Start method will have 1 lakh records. Execute method will take 2000 records at once, so that execute method will run 50 times to process all 1 lakh records. And finally, once execute method is done, it will go to the finish method where it will have any post-processing logic, something like, so hey, your batch job has been run properly and these are the list of records that have been updated. So if you want to send some emails, some kind of any logs creation, then finish method can be useful. So let's see the difference between Queueable and batch Apex. So in Queueable, it implements Queueable interface. In batch Apex, it implements database.batchable. As I said, interface has a to-do list. In Queueable, it has only one execute method, but in database.batchable, it has start, execute, finish method. Okay, just as a summary how batch Apex works, as you know, we have three methods: start, execute, and finish method. So start method will query all the records. Let's say if we have 1 lakh records, it will get all 1 lakh records. And now it will send a batch of it, let's say 2000 records, to execute method. So in this execute, we will do our logic. Let's say we will update it or we will delete it, etc., etc. So execute will do its processing and then it is the one it will do all the processing. Once it is done, it will again take another 2000. It will go back again and it will take another 2000 from start method and then it will execute the next 2000. And it will take next 2000, next 2000 until it finishes all 1 lakh records. Once 1 lakh records are done, it will come down and it will finish. It will, if we have any post-processing logic, something like to send an email and to do some kind of logs, etc., then we need to have our logic in finish method. If you see execute method is calling multiple times, start will be called only once and it will come to execute and it will process multiple times with multiple batches and finally it will come out of it with finish method. Okay, let's create a simple batch class so that you will understand what is it exactly. go to file and click on Apex class. Here we'll just create test demo batch. So click on OK. Now this is a class, simple class. If we want to make any class to batchable class, we need to write implements and then we need to give database dot batchable and then we need to give s object. So whenever we give this implements, we are trying to implement an interface. So interface is something which is having a to-do list. In our daily to-do list, we have a couple of things, right? We need to wake up and then get ready and go to office, etc., etc. So in the same way, database batchable is also having to-do list. Those to-do list says start, execute, and finish method, which means any class that is implementing this interface, we need to follow its to-do list. So the to-do list of database batchable contains start, execute, and finish method. So we'll see how to define these methods. Okay, so we'll take this out. So start method, we need to write public and we need to give database dot query. Don't worry about this, it's just a return type. I will explain it to you better. So start method and it will receive database dot context, batchable context as parameter. So in start method, we need to have something written. So which will have get. So database dot query locator and then we need to give query here. So start method will have all the data that needs to be processed. So as Queueable has asked, he needs to update 1 lakh accounts. So let's say in our database, let's say we have 1 lakh accounts, we'll just give it and account. So if we run this particular line, once the start method runs this particular line, it will get all the accounts, whether it is 50,000 or 1 lakh, it doesn't bother. Query locator has the ability, this is get query locator, sorry. So get query locator has the ability to query as many as records. Unlike our regular Apex, we cannot query. If this query has more than 50,000 records, our regular Apex will hit the exception. But in batch class, which is implementing database.batchable, it will not hit the exception even though we have 1 lakh record. It will not hit exception even the query returns 1 million records also. Okay, so this is how database query locator is handy. So inside this query locator, you need to give your query as a string. Now we have our start method. Okay, sorry, this is return. Okay, now we need to write our execute method. So execute method will not return anything, void, and then just need to give execute. And here you have same parameter as start, which is batchable context, and then it will receive. So this, let's say this particular line has 1 lakh records or 1 million records. Okay, and then it will send 2000 records to execute. So once execute method is done with this 2000 records, again start method will send next 2000 as a chunk. So this is the place where it will receive those 2000 records. So we need to give something like sublist from start method. Okay, so here we will do our logic to process all 2000 records. So once this 2000 records is done, it will again come back to the execute method. In this execute method, by the time it will have fresh 2000 to 4000, and again it will run this 2000, and again it will come to execute method, and this sublist from start method will send another 2000, which is from 4000 to 6000. So once our processing is done, we have our final method, which is finish. So this is also having the same logic as this, so which is batchable context, and then with same parameter. So in here you can have any post-processing logic. So I can send emails, or I can just put system.debug log saying that batch job is done. So I will just put, for now I will put debug, and then I will write batch job completed. Okay. Now we have our finish method, we have our start method, and we have our execute method. So I will just show an example. So we already have the start method, which is having all the accounts, and which we will try to update all the accounts. And for every account, there should be a prefix as batchable updated. Example, if I go here and click on accounts, let's see how many records are there. Go to all accounts, and I see around 19 records in total. So all these 19 records has to be prefixed something like batch updatable. Okay, so every account should have a name something called batch updated hyphen and its name. Okay, so we'll do it in batch class. So we have our execute method where we need to process all of them. So here I will write all my logic. So here, as you already know, a subject is there, but instead of that as subject, I can also pass the account, or else I need to typecast it. If you are really sure which object you are querying, you can just give it here so that you don't need to typecast. So I will just write it here, account ACC, and then sublist from start method, and then here, and then I will just update the name. Name is equal to, I will just prefix with batch updated, and then hyphen, I will just add the action name. So if account name is Srikanth, then it will be changed to batch updated acc.name. Once accounts is being updated, we just need to write our update command. Tada! And it is done. So we have our start method, which is querying all the accounts. It will send chunk of data to this execute method. So for now we have only 20. That is the reason in one batch itself this will execute. But if we have 1 million, every time 2000 will be sent here and 2000 accounts will be updated, and again it will go up, and again next 2000 will be updated. That's how it will be done. Once all this is done, finish method will just display the debug message. Okay, so this is how we can define the batch class. 2000 is the maximum batch size. You can reduce it to 1 also. Okay, I got the syntax, but how to call the batch apex? Yeah, if you want to call this batch apex from any other class or from execute anonymous, this is how you need to call it. Database.execute batch, and you need to instantiate this class by using new and then class name comma batch size. If you give the batch size here as 2000, it will take 2000 in one batch and then process it in execute. If you give 20, it will take 20 records in that batch and take execute, and then it will process it. Okay, now we have our batch class ready. We need to know how to call this batch class. So if we go to debug, so batch class can be called from another batch class, or it can be from any apex, etc, etc. Now if I want to call my batch class, I need to use a command called database.execute batch. You need to instantiate your class name here, so which is test demo batch, and then here, and this is optional, but you can give the batch size also. So default batch size is 200 and maximum will be 2000, and the minimum is 1. So what is this batch size? So if you see here it is sending 2000. If let's say the start method receives 1 lakh records, it will send 2000. So if you want to send 2000 for every batch, you can make it 2000. So if you want to make it only 100 at once, and it will go 100 here. So if you want to have only one that has to send every time, then you need to give 1 here. But now you can ask this question, why 1? So why 1 is least, right? Why can't I give just 2000, so for 1 million by 2000 it will just done within 5000 batches, all the batch jobs will run. If I give 1 here, it will take 1 million times of this execute method to execute, and then it will go to finish. Who the hell will give 1 here? The reason is execute method will take time to execute its logic. Let's say execute method has multiple callouts and multiple big complex problems, and complex logic. It has multiple updates to do, which intends calls, triggers, etc, etc. Then what happens is this execute method will take long time to process all that chunk. Let's say give it 2000, and all these 2000 has to go through all multiple callouts, because complex logic for all those 2000, and update trigger. As there is a time limit for this asynchronous process, it will hit the limit and it will obviously stop your batch job. That is the reason if it is taking too long for execute to do it, we need to reduce the batch size from 2000 to 1000. Even though if it doesn't fit, then you need to make it to 100, and then finally if even that is not satisfied, you need to come back to 1. That is the reason there is a batch size, which you can define it by yourself. So it has to be based on your logic that you have written in your execute method. Okay, so I hope you understood the importance of batch size. So for now we have only 19 records. If you see, for now we have only 19 accounts. So I want to show you how that works. So I will give 1 here, which means start method will receive all 19 records, and out of those 19 records, one will be sent to this execute method, and each of the record will get updated, and then again it will come back to execute, and then one of them will execute like this. Okay, so if we have 19 type, this execute will run. Now if I click on execute now, you should be seeing 19 entries in this log. So for people who doesn't know logs here, So logs is something, debug logs is something which will record every action of yours under here. Okay, let's say if this execute runs multiple times, it will have that many entries. So 19 records, we are running as one of them each, so we should be seeing 19 records along with our execute action. Okay, so I will click on, sorry, comment this down. Now if I click on execute here, it should display 19 log entries here. Yeah, so yeah, wait, one more thing. So I need to give name also here because we are trying to update name here. That means it needs to be there in query. Now if we click on execute here, we should be seeing 19 entries here in the log. So you see all of them 19 should be having 19 entries here. So each of the entry relates to one execute transaction. So let's see whether our account's reflected with that name. So click on refresh and we see batch updated hyphen batch update hyphen etc etc. So this is how you can call your batch class with your batch number. So regarding the batch sizes, the minimum batch size is 1 and the maximum batch size will be 2000. So if you don't provide the batch size in that particular calling, then default will be as 200. Okay, I got it. But why should I learn batch class when we already got Queueable and Future method? Okay. So the major benefits with batch class is it allows you to process 50 millions of records in background. Queueable and Future methods cannot handle this much of data. And batch job is very much best in handling long running processes. Let's say you are doing any callouts and if it is taking long time for large chunk of data, batch Apex is lot more useful than Queueable and Future. Oh, can we chain batch jobs that runs one after other like Queueable class? Yes. So once a batch job is done, if you want to chain another batch job after the first job is done, this is possible. So it's very similar to Queueable job, but here you need to use database.execute batch in the first job finish method. So let me show you that. So if you see here, we have the first batch class and we have second batch class. So if you want to call second batch class, once first batch class is done, you need to give database.execute. Here it says execute, but basically it's execute batch. So execute batch of new batch class 2. Then once that class is done, it will call the second batch class and second batch class will be called. In the same way, if you want to call batch class 3 from batch class 2, then you can chain that in the finish method. In finish method, you need to try database.execute batch, new batch class 3. As simple as that. Now that we have understood how to create a batch class and how to call a batch class, now we'll see how to chain a batch class. So for that we need to have two batch classes, right? Then only we can chain one batch with the other one. So I will create one more class with the same kind of logic, except for this is for account, right? Account updation we have done in this class. There we'll do it for contact. So test demo contact batch. Okay. So it is a similar batch except it will update the contacts. So I will just give it here, scroll down and give the name, paste, and then take this out. So this is for contact, so we need to change our logic accordingly. So this is for contact, and instead of name, we'll give it as last name, and here it should be contact again, and here it should be contact, and we'll have con, and we'll have con dot last name because contact contains first name and last name, batch updated with con last name. So I think that should do. So this contact batch class has been done. So this batch class will get all the contacts. So currently I think we have around 20 to 25 contacts. All of them will be prefixed with batch update. Okay. And now if we go to our first batch class, which already has updated to batch updated. So instead of that, instead of prefixing it, we'll change the name of each account to I batch class has updated you. I think this should be okay. Now all our 20 accounts has to change its name to I batch classes has updated you. Okay, there is no prefix, just it will update it directly. All 20 accounts will have the same name. 19 or 20 accounts will have same name. So we have our batch class ready, our first batch class ready, and our second batch class has ready. And now we need to chain them. How to chain them? So to chain the second batch class, we need to call our database.execute batch, and inside you need to give the second batch class name, which is test demo contact batch, and you can give the batch size or you can leave it. So I will just give it as 20 here, maybe 25, and then semicolon. So this is how you need to chain your jobs. Okay, so if you're So if you have another batch class which needs to be chained, if you want to chain it from here, you need to go to finish method here. You can chain it the other batch class here from here. So it can be chained like this. So for now, we'll save this and we have our first job ready, second job ready, and we have our chaining of jobs is also ready. So now if I run this batch class, it will update all the accounts to this, and then it will call the second batch job and it will go to the contacts, and in all contacts it will update or prefix all the contact names with batch updated. Okay, this is our expected result. Now we'll call our first batch class like this. So database.execute demo batch will give 20 as the batch size, or you can give 100. Even though it has only 20, you can give 100 or 2000 also. 2000 is the maximum batch size, 1 is the minimum batch size. And now if we click on execute, yeah, just before clicking on execute, so this should be last name as well. And yeah, last name, fine. And now if I click on execute, first job should update all the accounts and then it will come back to save it. And second batch job has to update all the contacts to batch updated. Click on execute. Now we'll go to accounts and see whether our accounts has changed its name to iBatch has updated. So if you see already, I see the result. Let's see all the accounts. And if I scroll down, see all the 19 accounts have changed its name to iBatch class has updated. And now we'll see the contacts. So this is our first batch performance where it has updated all the accounts properly. Now we'll see how second job has performed its ability. Now click on contacts and I should see all the contacts last name has to be changed with batch updated. See all the contacts batch here. All the contacts last name has been prefixed with batch update. So first job and then it changed second job automatically. We call the first job and then first job has changed the second job and second job has been ran after that. So this is how you need to chain your batch jobs. Okay, now we'll see the limitations with batch class. So at a time there can be only 5 batches that can be running at the same time. So let's say you have scheduled multiple jobs at any point of time, there should be only 5 batch jobs that should be running in parallel. So the second limitation is future methods cannot be called from batch apex. Okay, that's the wrap up. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, practice, and bye.